Packers at Vikings. After I broke this game down with Donnie on Tuesday, I went ahead and bet the Vikings -3. I got -114 on the Low Shack in the back, so I'd have to look over my notes to see what I got when I actually bet it. But I backing the Vikings -3 here. I think this is a really nice spot for them. It opened Vikings -4.5. Then on Tuesday, there was a couple 3.5s, but mostly 3s. Today, you can still get 3.5s at plus money, but it's mostly 3s. When I made the bet on the Vikings, I didn't think, and I said that on the show, I didn't think 3s were going to be available, and they are. Packers are on extra rest. Will it matter? They played to a 29-29 tie on September 16th. And that was because of a Vikings rookie kicker missing 3 field goal attempts, including 2 in overtime. He was released. Dan Bailey now doing the kicking for Minnesota. Cousins had perhaps his best game of the season against the Packers, but that was when Cousins had everybody had a lot of hope in him. Maybe that hope is going away a little bit. In that game, he was 35-48, 425 yards, 4 TDs, 1 pick. But Cousins and the Vikings have struggled in primetime games, and we hear people talk about it all the time. Cousins is 4-12 in prime time games. Tough to back a guy who's 4-12 in prime time games, but Green Bay is 0-5 on the road. Rodgers has a nice touchdown to pick ratio at 19-1, but his 2 touchdown and no pick game against the Seahawks was not enough. Diggs and Thielen will be doing damage to this Packers secondary. We don't know who is going to be back entirely because this Vikings team needs Anthony Barr rolling. They have Xavier Rhodes back. We don't know about Sendejo. Why don't we start with you, Whale Capper? When we talked on Tuesday, when I talked with Donnie on Tuesday, the Vikings team total over was also something we were interested in. I only made the move on Vikings -3. Whale Capper, what do you see here on the Sunday Nighter?
So I've been back and forth here between Green Bay as a money line play at plus 150 something and the over 47.5. I think both are pretty good looks. I think both of these teams are going to score. I think this is going to be a pretty competitive game. In the end, my only official play on my card was the over 47.5. Boy, it's tough to walk away from plus 150 with Aaron Rodgers in a game that the Vikings absolutely have to win. We're in the time of season where Aaron Rodgers traditionally plays his best football. He's up against a team that we know he has an extra chip on his shoulder to kind of send these guys a message. This is the Vikings team that took him out of commission last year with a collarbone injury. It's really, and that the stat you brought up about Kirk Cousins is leading me in the Green Bay direction as well. We haven't seen Kirk Cousins perform well in those big spots. We haven't seen him perform well against teams that are generally winning teams. But on the other side of the ball, you have an extremely depleted secondary for Green Bay, and the space should be there for Thielen and Diggs to do some damage. Diggs especially. Thielen does not look like he was 100% in that game against the Bears. He looked like he was jumping a little. He wasn't making the catches that we've seen him make in the earlier half of the season. So he may not be all the way back from his injury, but certainly Diggs looked damn good. So I think both of these teams score. I think it's competitive. I think we see, both of them get into the 24-point range, and probably this is decided by a field goal, 27-24. If you're out there looking for Green Bay, I would back them on the money line. Don't take 3.5. They either win this outright or or the Vikings take care of business. It's tough for me to really make a strong case either way on the side here. I just feel like Green Bay at plus 150 this time of year is value.
I can understand backing the Packers on the money line. I can understand going for a score with Aaron Rodgers late in the season. But this Vikings team at home, I think, will take care of business. When I heard Donnie break down this game on Tuesday, I immediately bet on the Vikings. I do not care that they've lost 4 of their last 6. I don't care that Cousins has a tough time in primetime games. I just think that the Vikings have too many advantages all over the field, except at quarterback. Donnie, 3 days to marinate this game. What do you think now?
Yeah, think about it on the same lines as when we talked about it on Tuesday. I just think a lot of this goes into, I mean, there's numbers out there and such, but it's just not your old school Green Bay team. I mean, if you wouldn't wake up, you wouldn't even know that they were 4-5 and they don't play very well on the road. And there's been games at home against the San Francisco 49ers where the 49ers took them apart and were the better football team out there. Their record could be a lot worse than what it actually is based on the brand of football that they played. The same reason last week I love the Chicago Bears. That you guys bring up a good point on being the injuries and what Minnesota Vikings have. That was a cold weather game with a lot of soft tissue injuries. They held Anthony Barr out one more week to make sure he's ready for the next week. You're right. When you see Adam Thielen last week, dealing with calf injuries. But when you're playing in cold weather on grass against a real physical team, it's hard to get up for that football game and have a complete effort. Now you come back, they're a dome team. They're used to playing in the dome. And if we take a look to see how this defense has performed in the dome, starting from opening day, the highest, most yardage they've given up all year was opening day to Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers. 327 yards. If you take a look down that rabbit hole, the next game, 292. The following game, 269 total they gave up on defense. And the New Orleans Saints that nobody can stop, 270 yards they've given up to the New Orleans Saints at home. And the most recent game against the Detroit Lions that they absolutely crushed, 209 total yards they've given up. This is going to be hell to pay for Aaron Rodgers, and I just think it's more likely. It's not to say that the Green Bay Packers won't be able to score. Aaron Rodgers is a really good football player. He's going to be able to move the chains. He's going to make some plays, and referees usually love him. He's notorious for extending plays long enough to get that pass interference from guys scrambling around. So he is going to make plays. But this game comes down to the Vikings offense at home should be able to do whatever they want against this Packers defense. They're depleted in the secondary. You have two great options at wide receiver. Rudolph's an okay third over the middle, but you should be able to run the ball. Healthy Dalvin Cook finally, Latavius Murray. It's not so much about what the Green Bay Packers can do. I just think the Vikings are going to have a pretty easy time on offense moving the football up and down the field. And I'll lean on Mike Zimmer and that defense at home. They are built to stop the Green Bay Packers. They built this team to go up against them. Jimmy Graham's been a non-factor all year as is. Now he's going to play with a broken thumb. I just don't see a ton of options out there, especially if I'm going to get a healthy Xavier Rhodes, which it looks like I am. They'll make plays on defense, and I just need to win the game by 3 points. I think Minnesota can handle that.
I do too. Donnie, is there any... Do you back this idea that this might be the worst Aaron Rodgers-led offense that we have ever seen? Devontae Adams goes off every game. Last game, 10 for 166 yards. But he's the only wideout you have to cover. In that last game they played, only Lance Kendricks, caught more than one pass. It just seems like they're a pretty... I know that Aaron Rodgers is magical, but it feels like they're a pretty easy team to defend right now.
They have some talent out there, but here's what the difference between this Packers team and the other Packers teams were. You usually had that veteran running back, a bigger back that can pick up the blitz. They have the two young kids who can run the football, but they're going to blow assignments. And also, how many times were Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, when they were both healthy in the football game for the Green Bay Packers, they always, the back shoulder fades, everything worked out. Third down, I know exactly where Randall Cobb's going to be. One-on-one coverage with Jordy Nelson, I'm just going to zing this to the back side, and he's going to be wide open, and I'll throw him open there. They just don't have that type of offense running this year, and they missed on Jimmy Graham. I mean, Jimmy Graham was supposed to be that extra component. We never have a tight end who can extend the field and be wide open in the red zone. He just fell off a cliff like a running back in his 30s would, and he's absolutely obsolete at this point. You're right, and that offensive line is getting older, and Aaron Rodgers is getting older, still with a little bit of that knee injury. There's a lot of components here with talent on the Green Bay Packers, but they don't have that familiarity that they had for so many years where you knew exactly where these guys would be and they knew the offense by the back of their hand.
Well, Kepper, what do you think about the idea that this might be the worst Aaron Rodgers-led offense that we've seen ever?
I don't think that that's real. I don't think that that's 100% realistic. He is doing, Aaron Rodgers himself is elevating the play of a lot of the guys around him. That's no doubt about it. But the problem with the Packers is clearly 1A is defense and 1B is coaching. I don't think it really matters who the guys you have around Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you make a good point about not having a guy who can pick up the blitz, and the fact that does kind of play into how successful he is. But this is, they have a fine stable of weapons, young guys, fast guys that can get open down the sidelines. Aaron Rodgers is throwing amazing precision passes, beyond 25 yards, better than anyone else in the NFL. And I think he's a live dog in this one. I'm curious about more on the other side of the ball about the Vikings. The Vikings had 2 weeks to prepare for the Bears. They rolled out a supremely vanilla approach. They tried to force the run, even though it absolutely wasn't working. They never really kind of, until the chips were down and they absolutely had to pass, they couldn't really find their offense. It was a really just kind of a pretty pathetic performance coming off the bye last week. Credit to Donnie for being all over the Bears in that spot. I took a loss with the Vikings. What is it about Zimmer and about this offense that you think that on a fly, another tough divisional game that they're just going to come out and be able to go score for score with Aaron Rodgers?
I think it's the weakness of the Packers defense. Simply put, they don't seem, their secondary's weak. It looked like maybe it was a sign of strength that they didn't need Clinton Dix, but they seem to be allowing yards. And also, the main thing to me with the Vikings is that when Rodgers has to get it done this year, when it's crunch time in the fourth quarter, he just doesn't seem to be able to do it. I mean, against the Patriots, he didn't even pass midfield. Donnie, can you answer that question better than I just did? What do you think? How do you feel about this Vikings offense going toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense?
Yeah, no, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay because the thing that I never like about Kirk Cousins is if you have a good defense against Kirk Cousins, like the Chicago Bears did, he's going to give you one. He's going to give you that pick six. You're going to have that, oh, Kirk, what the hell are you doing out there? But I just don't see enough pressure coming from the Green Bay front seven. And I know, hey, they have a decent pass rusher out there in Clay Matthews, but he getting a little bit long in the tooth. I think he'll be able to stand up, and since it's back in a dome, he's not going to have all that noise around him. I think it's going to slow down, and I think he'll play well in this football game. Because, again, I think the cap is the same thing that we have, Jimmy. Not so much about Aaron Rodgers and let's shut him down and hold the Packers to under 300 yards. I just think the Vikings will be able to move, I don't want to say with ease, but methodically up and down the field, field goals, touchdowns, not very many 3-and-outs, when I think it's going to be tough for the Packers to do vice versa against that Vikings defense at home. That's what it comes down to me for. I don't think the Packers are going to get embarrassed like 41-17 or 41-21, but I just think it's one of those games where I think the Vikings are the better team all the way through and win by 7 to 10 points.
I like it. I'm on the Vikings already.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.